morning, PGCC. Thank you so much for coming out to our AI panel. I am here to introduce our moderator, Dr. Deneen Robinson. So Dr. Deneen Robinson is a distinguished educator and thought leader in human resource management, currently serving as a key faculty member in the continuing education program within the Business and Entrepreneurship Department here at Prince George's Community College. Since co-authoring the development of the college's non-credit human resource certificate program in 2012, she has been instrumental in designing and teaching core courses such as Principles of Human Resource Management and HR's role in organizational development and change management. Her teaching equips students with both foundational knowledge and actionable strategies essential for success in today's dynamic HR landscape. A strong advocate for educational access and innovation, Dr. Robinson has developed open educational resources in business management and HR textbooks here at the college, and has since been awarded 2025's Most OER Faculty Grant from the University System of Maryland. With this support, she is currently creating a new OER textbook for the college entitled Introduction to Human Resource Management for the 21st Century. Dr. Robinson's contributions extend far beyond the classroom. She actively supports student development as a faculty sponsor for business and entrepreneurship students and participates in PGCC's experiential learning internship program. Her institutional involvement includes membership on the Human Resource Certificate Program Review Committee and Interview Committee for selection of current business and entrepreneurship development chair. She also serves on several key college initiatives, to include the Faculty Excellence Award Committee and the Achieving the Dream Committee. From 2023 to 2025, she serves as part-time at-large senator on the Faculty Senate and is currently a member of PGCC's 2025 Opening Week Committee. With that, I'd like to welcome back to the stage Dr. Deneen Robinson.
All right, now we're going to really introduce our key people here. But before that, I'd like to give you some facts. The Maryland Association of Community College, they published an article in May 30th, 2025, and they indicated that white-collar jobs are most likely to be exposed to AI. Blue-collar roles are the least likely to be exposed to AI, and service sector jobs are moderate. The key skills that we as educators need to make sure our students are taught in our classroom are adaptability, critical thinking, problem solving, soft skills, communication, collaboration, and emotional intelligence. AI will increase productivity. AI will disrupt jobs, but not eliminate work. Also, policy and education must adapt quickly. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later on when we break up. And entry-level and middle school jobs face the most challenge. So with that being said, I want to pull up my panelists. So Mr. Kevin Gifhorn, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Gifhorn, and I am the Director of Higher Education at MindGrub Technologies. We're a digital agency, and what that means is we build everything from websites to mobile apps, and we've been doing a lot of AI projects recently as well, both public-facing and behind the scenes. But before all that, I'm a retired educator. I retired from teaching high school and college level math and computer science. So I understand this world very well, and I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Jackson?
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Terrence Jackson. I'm a customer security officer at Microsoft. So what that means is I partner with our customers to more recently help them with their AI transformation, whether those are large enterprises, higher, education institutions. I've been at Microsoft for about 5 years now, but I've been in IT security for over 25 years. I'm also a proud Prince Georgian, a member of the Prince George's County Technology Council and AI Task Force, and also the parents of two lifelong educators. So this is a topic that's near and dear to me as well.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Miss Marie Sakowitz.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marie Sakowitz. I'm an IT program manager at the Defense Information Systems Agency. I have been leading enterprise-level IT projects for over 20 years with them. I've also now focusing on business systems within the agency. I'm working on my PhD in human-centered computing. Specifically, I'm researching AI use in education and special education to make learning experiences more accessible to students.
Okay, our own Dr. Emily Philbrick.
Hello, everyone. Yes, okay, good. Yes, I'm from PGCC here, and this is going into my 4th year here. So I am with the English department. I teach first year writing. I teach tech writing, business writing, and also I work with our co-requisite students. I'm here not really because I'm an expert on AI, but because I'm part of a committee in the English department. All last year we were meeting talking about these issues of what does AI really look like for our students. So I'm hoping to kind of represent some of those conversations.
And my colleague from my department, Professor Felicia Bowen.
Good morning, everyone. Professor Bowen. Many of you have seen me, known me. I've been here for 11 years, starting in the math department. So I taught developmental math, and I was coined for keeping it very engaging. So I kept that same work in the business and entrepreneurship department, which is where I am now. And you'll hear more about that when it's my turn to talk again.
All right, thank you. So I want to do a short video. It's about 1 minute, so that's when I say short.
As the school year begins, college students and instructors have an extra resource to use in teaching and learning: artificial intelligence. News 19's Riley Hackett has the story of how educators are working to harness AI rather than running from it.
Artificial intelligence has been around for decades, but the rise of ChatGPT, Google Bard, and similar programs have made AI more accessible and functional.
It's one of these things that it's here, and as time ticks by, we're only getting more strength in the tools.
Educators at USC's Center for Teaching Excellence discussed the future of AI during a forum Monday. They, like the rest of us, are working to identify pitfalls and possible uses for artificial intelligence. Andy Shumper and other instructors shared strategies.
Quick lesson plans, ways to create learning objectives for the classes that they're teaching, study guides. You can actually create entire quizzes and various assessments using it.
David Hudgens teaches international business.
AI is an immense topic, a really brand new topic for many of us, but one that gives me certainly more confidence in being able to leverage and use it as a tool, a teaching tool, a resource for student-centered learning.
Reporting in Columbia, I'm Riley Hackett, News 19 WLTX.
All right, I just wanted to talk about how AI is reshaping the future. AI allows us to pursue new markets. It allows our faculty here to find out what type of skill sets, what type of components do we need to include in our syllabus and in our in-class student engagement activities. Because I always say that a classroom is the training room before they get to the real thing, which is the real world. Also, when we put AI, it allows students to be able to come up with better decisions, because now they have this information, and how can they put it all together for an essay, for a project. And also, it's really good because it helps with research, because students need to use critical thinking skills to be able to gather information, to put it together, and it helps students to become more, not just of a problem solver, but to be able to become confident in speaking in front of other people. Okay, so now we're getting to the panelist questions. Okay, question number 1. I feel like Vanna Black here. Okay, question number 1 to Mr. Gifhorn. Okay, which AI-driven web applications do you believe will have the most transformative impact on higher education over the next few years? And how can institutions effectively integrate these tools into teaching, learning, and student support systems?
Wow. All right. Again, having just been in the classroom within the last 5 years and seeing how ChatGPT has come out, it's amazing what's going to happen. And I'm looking at this from a couple standpoints. One of them is a term you might have heard called agentic systems. And I'm looking at this one for higher education on the back end. So you might have heard that higher ed has a lot of silos. So you have a silo for academics, like the career services. You could have one for registration, finance, IT. So imagine now if a student is a semester into the program here, let's say an associate's degree in business administration, and they say, all right, I want to be done in 2 years. What classes do I still need to take? How much is it going to cost me? When are those classes offered? They're going to have to go to each individual silo to find that answer. Possible, but very time-consuming. Instead, by using a back-end agentic system, you would have a director agent, not unlike an operator. You would say, hey, this is what I want to know. They would go to the registrar's office to pull out your transcripts. They could then go to student affairs, figure out what classes are needed, go to finance, figure out what's it going to cost you, go back to student affairs, figure out when those classes are offered, and give you your answers all right there on the front end. But that's going to have a lot of help for students, a lot of help for faculty and staff. But 2, I also think are going to have quick impacts. AI products built right into the learning management system, the LMS. So imagine now a college student sitting there in math agnostic, it doesn't matter what the course is, where they can now, the AI is going to analyze how they're performing on these tasks required for the class and give you personalized review that you need right now. If you've mastered one topic, maybe one question, but if you haven't mastered another, to give it to you in different ways. It might be a quick quiz. It might be some short answer. It might even be a small podcast via a product called Notebook LM. If you haven't seen Notebook LM yet, run, don't walk. Notebook, Lima Mike. It's amazing. But then a third one I see could be really impactful for a lot of you, and that's the student advising part of this, where imagine now we have AI products that can help augment the student advising process, where we all try to keep track of our students to make sure we know where are they at any moment. This would be able to help you identify students that maybe are slipping, or maybe from a higher level aren't paying their tuition bill, and we want to make sure everything's okay. And we can help keep them on track before it becomes a really big issue. But then I also like to look at it from the positive end. Let's identify students that are crushing it, that are doing an amazing job. We can then recommend leadership positions for those students. We can recommend internships for those students. So I really do see between student affairs, like the student advising, and the learning management systems, those are going to have 2 really quick impacts right from the beginning. And yeah, efficiently integrating. Start small and pilot quickly. Start with a class and try something with it. Maybe it's an AI assignment. Maybe a department decides they're going to do one thing. But it's very risk-free. It should not be held against you if it doesn't work. That's why it's called a pilot. I really do love that, the idea of just really starting small and then pivoting quickly. But also, you need a strong AI policy. You do need that. You need that for the course level. You need that at the institution level, because faculty and staff need to know what are the guidelines required, what are the guidelines expected for using AI correctly here. And without a doubt, you still need the human in the loop. All of this is here to augment. I mean, if you think about it previously, how if you wanted to cook, if you wanted a cup of tea, you had to put the kettle on the burner and do that. Then we got a microwave, and that's pretty quick. And I know, I don't have it. My friend even has one of those Insta-Hots right there on the sink where it can do that. Are they lazy? No, it's just helping them be quicker, more efficient. They don't have to stand around waiting. And that's really what AI is going to do with all of these. It's going to help the students, it'll help the faculty and help the staff do their job more efficiently by taking care of some of the other pieces along the way.
Thank you, Mr. Gifhorn. Question number 2 is for Mr. Jackson. As AI tools become more integrated into higher education, from personalized learning platforms to automated grading, what new cybersecurity risks do you foresee emerging, and how should institutions prepare to protect sensitive student and institutional data?
That's a great question. One that I spend the majority of my waking hours talking to customers about. AI needs data, as we all know, to actually be useful. The challenge that has been thrust upon at least IT departments and security departments in the last, 18 to 24 months with, let's say, ChatGPT and, Gemini, enter your obligatory, LLM, DeepSeek. But as a whole, we didn't have a lot of strong data governance policies when you start looking at corporations, state and local governments, or higher ed. We were having this conversation this morning, but depending on whether your infrastructure, meaning your servers or your applications are on-prem, like you have a physical data center, or I like to say a closet somewhere with a whole bunch of computer stuff in it that nobody goes to check until somebody says I can't access something, they go unplug it and plug it back in, or if you've undergone the digital transformation and migrated into the cloud, meaning you're using like Office 365, or you're using Google Workspace or Google Classroom, for example. Data is stored in so many different places and often forgot about, and it's retained for longer than it should be legally. And that has presented a unique challenge when LLMs and AIs come into place. I always ask a lot of my customers, like, how many of you know where all your data is? Nobody has ever given me 100% answer. We get about 65, 70%. So introduce, let's just say, Copilot, which is our version of ChatGPT for, like I say, commercial customers. When you implement that, it's going to crawl OneDrive, SharePoint, shared drives if you have those connected into your environment. And if you didn't have strong access policies, identity and access management policies, like everybody probably needs a different level of access depending on the sensitivity of the data. Oftentimes, those policies aren't strongly reviewed or governed, which goes back to another policy. And now your end users, or teachers, we'll say at this point, can enter prompts, and that prompt is going to return data based off what you asked it. Now, if it finds data that's loosely governed, you may see something that you shouldn't see. And I always like to give this example, but this has really happened. You might want to ask how much a certain person makes, salary data. And if that HR data isn't tightly controlled, guess what? You're going to get a nice response with everybody's salary data. That has happened. Think about pharmaceutical companies that are developing drugs. Again, if their data isn't tightly controlled, somebody can ask a prompt, and then we get into insider risk. You presented somebody with a set of data that they don't know what to do with, but I like to think most people are well-intentioned. However, we've seen that that's not the reality in the world that we live in. So this is really a conversation on controls. Who has access to data? Why do they have access to data? And how often are you reviewing access to this data? That's the first part of it before we even move into the implementation of a LLM. That's just, basic, I would say, security hygiene. The LLMs, not all of those are created equal. I mean, there are thousands of companies that have popped up in the last couple of years that provide fun things to do with your data and prompts, but not all of them are using your data for, I would say, ethical purposes. And this also goes back to acceptable use policies. I always like to ask this question, but how many of you have ever read from start to finish an acceptable use policy for a cloud service that you signed up for? You see, my hand didn't go up either. But therein lies an issue. And when DeepSeek came on to the scene, you probably saw the markets were going, crazy, and people were like, what the heck is this DeepSeek? Their acceptable or usage policy basically said, if you use this tool, we're going to retain your data. It's going to be in China, and there's nothing you can do about it. I use that example because it's top of mind, but a lot of these tools are not housed in the United States. So when you're thinking about what tools to bring in, if you're not using, Microsoft or Google or another OpenAI ChatGPT, you run the risk of overexposing data. And we also talked about this before this session this morning. That's a one-way street. Once you put data into an LLM, there is no, hey, can you go delete that? Can you bring it back? Oops, my bad. That's why you saw probably, about 2 years ago, certain countries, Italy for one, blocked access to ChatGPT for the entire country because they were terrified of what data people would put into this LLM. Samsung, a lot of people probably have Samsung phones, they blocked access to ChatGPT because one of their engineers accidentally uploaded, I won't say accidentally, but they uploaded a confidential document into ChatGPT. Again, that went into the model, and somewhere somebody's probably built a product based off of that training data. So you can see the theme. It's really about thinking about secure by design and secure defaults, but really having strong policies around what tools that you can use, which goes back to the AI policy, acceptable use, and making sure you have technical controls in place to prevent data that you don't want to be a part of that model to go into it. There are phenomenal use cases and around higher ed. He went into a lot of them. Also, when we start thinking about the future of work, when you're engaging with your students, the World Economic Forum, I think earlier this year, released a report on the future of work. Now, if you read that report, it may seem a little scary in the beginning. I see that as an opportunity. There's never been a time, at least in my lifetime, where technology has come along this fast, been adopted this fast, and is accessible to the masses. A lot of these tools, almost all of them, have a free tier. He mentioned Notebook LM. If you hadn't used Notebook LM, I strongly encourage you to use that. And if we go into the breakout session, we will be using that as an activity. But there's never been an easier way to learn new things, new concepts. And I always like to say that the hottest new programming language right now is natural language. You can interact with these tools just like you would a person. That may sound a little scary at first, but you'll get more comfortable over time, and keeping the human in the loop is what we want to also keep top of mind. We branded all of our suite of products as a co-pilot, and we call it co-pilot for a reason, because we need a pilot, and the pilot is you, the human, in the loop. I actually spoke at a legal conference yesterday, and there was a story about 2 years ago where a lawyer used ChatGPT to generate court brief, case law, quote unquote. He went to court, submitted, and the judge was like, what is this? I don't know what this is. This isn't a real case. So AI will hallucinate. So this is, I always like to say that as an example, you have to verify the outputs. And as great as the output may sound, you're going to get charts and apps and all these things. You still have to be knowledgeable about the output. Yes, I can go ask it to generate a phenomenal presentation on quantum physics, but I'm not a quantum physicist. I have no way to validate the outputs. So that's what I'll leave you with when you're teaching and engaging your students with AI. Help them stay focused on things that they're knowledgeable about or they want to learn about. This is not, and I know a lot of the concerns are around cheating. That's always been there. I mean, and probably will be. But again, I like to think that most people are well-intentioned, and this is an aid to help them learn and to be more productive, not a replacement for them learning something, because the steps you skip going up, you're going to have to find on the way back down. So that's it.
All right. Question number 3 for Ms. Sakowitz. In what ways can AI-driven technologies enhance accessibility and support for students with disabilities and diverse learning capabilities in higher education? And what steps should institutions take to ensure these tools are inclusive, ethical, and effectively implemented?
All right, this is a really great question, and it's a great time for us to actually think about this, because before we got new technologies, the internet, new applications, Microsoft, we all were just learning to use it along with everyone else. But now AI, we at least know how to use digital technologies, so we can think more broadly about how to make it more accessible, more ethical, what are the biases, what should students be thinking about as they're using it. So starting from basics, I think making it more accessible to all your students is just, if we have device loaning programs in the community college, students may not be coming from backgrounds that actually have a laptop, a tablet, getting them access to that. Then internet, making internet accessible to everyone. Offline, so as you're looking at those applications, make sure it has an offline capability, or they can download the content they need to the device so they can take it with them if they do not have internet in their home environment. And then talk about what they're going to be doing with those applications with them. So, hey, is it accessible to you? Can you use it? Text-to-speech is big for many of the students now. Speech-to-text going the other way. Making sure they have the adjustments for color blindness, making sure it has, able to verify what they're doing with it so they know, okay, I'm using this application for X use case that you gave them, and then not going into it just for other reasons. So kind of be specific about what these applications are going to be doing to make it, usable and accessible to these students you're having. Another thing is, as we're making these applications, as we're testing them out, you can test them with the students to see if they meet their disabilities. So find, students from different languages. Maybe they have language barriers that need to be overcome. Find students that might not have the mobility, hand mobility, color blindness was one, or just even low vision. Those are things you have to think about that make sure that those applications have settings that can be adjusted for your students to use them. Now, making lesson planning more accessible as well is another reason we want to talk about it, is because you as the educators or even the administrators, we're making this content available to the students, or these applications available to the students. Think about ways they can demonstrate different learning techniques. Okay, so some are more visual learners, some may be audio. The Notebook LM is a big application that can be used to kind of make a podcast and bring them the content in a format that's they're able to listen to and take in that way. Another thing would be talking about the visual learning. We can then make applications say, hey, how can I present this content to my students in a more visual, like talking about basketball, let's make images about basketball for this content. So there's many ways you can adjust the content you're providing the students with these applications to make it more accessible, but even just in different ways of learning. So the universal design of learning is a big thing that we all talk about. Just having more ways to represent the content, represent the information, even teach the students to use these applications. Okay, if they're using ChatGPT, Gemini, Bard, whatever the, Claude, whatever the application is, say, hey, if you're not understanding it, use these applications as a thought partner. I need to talk through this example. Say they're struggling with one piece of material in the course, they can talk to the application, say, hey, explain to me this in more simple terms, or present it to me in pictures, diagrams, whatever would work for them. Really just kind of thinking through how we can present ways they can learn to use the applications to help them to be, more thought partners and more accessible to everyone.
Okay, question number 4 for Dr. Philibrick. How do you see AI reshaping methodology and curriculum of English classes in higher education, particularly in areas like writing instructions, language learning, and critical thinking development?
Excellent and very complex question. So I won't speak too much to actual language learning because I have colleagues who could speak better to that. But in general, as a discipline, a lot of the conversations that we've been having really get to kind of an existential level sometimes, right? Like we pause and this makes us think, okay, what is our why? What is our purpose, right? And if the answer was, we teach grammar or something like that, right? And that was all we did, then we might be really struggling right now, right? And I do see that AI technologies that we're seeing popping up in the classroom might start to decenter some of those types of skills a little bit in our classroom space, although I still think that there's valuable reasons for talking about those things as well. But what we really do, and what I think the challenge is to help us think about how AI is going to help us achieve these types of goals, is we really are there to help our students see that learning and writing and thinking is a process, right? So we talk a lot about using writing as a thinking tool to help you actually develop your thinking. Of course, we talk about using writing as a communication tool, well, it's a communication tool, to connect, right? To share your perspective, your ideas, and to understand the perspective and the ideas of others. And I don't see any of that changing, right? Those are central goals to what we do, and I'm excited to see how different AI tools can maybe help alongside those goals. I will say there are some interesting things that are happening. In the department, people trying different things. I've tried using ChatGPT. I like to do game-based learning. I've used ChatGPT to help me come up with some game ideas to create text that I can use in those games. I haven't done this myself, but I have colleagues who have used AI platforms to help with peer review, help teach students editing skills, things like that. And I see a lot of space in the classroom for thinking about these as tools that will help us as educators come up with more innovative and interesting things that we might not have the time to create, like the game-based learning. The games that I do are really text rich, and I just wouldn't have had the time to create all of the artifacts that I need to run those. And for students, I think that there's the opportunity to use these tools to practice really specific skills. But one of the other things that really comes up, and I think will resonate with a lot of people, is that our students aren't always using these as tools, as co-writers and co-thinkers. Instead, we do have a lot of students that use these tools as what I'm going to call as a mask, as a masking technique, in order to maybe hide when they are concerned about their ability to effectively communicate, or even when they are concerned that the ideas that they have themselves aren't really worth expressing. And I think that the big challenge is really, and as we think about what it actually looks like to come up with a policy, maybe thinking less about just saying no, stop, use it this way, not this way, but instead really thinking about why are students using these things as masks sometimes, right? And what can we do pedagogically to help them understand the difference between using a tool, using a platform or something as a tool, right? As something that's alongside that helps instead of as a mask, as a tool that doesn't make the process of writing and thinking and learning less messy or less time consuming in a lot of cases. And that's part that I think about a lot. Our students are under a lot of pressure, a lot of time constraints, but I think it's really important as educators that we keep in mind that the process of learning and the process of critical thinking and writing as a tool for doing those things as well is meant to be a messy process. There's meant to be moments when we struggle and we fail and we get back up, right? And it's meant to be a time-consuming process. If we speed it up too much, we have to catch it on the way back down, right? And so I'm really excited to see, and I'm excited for the breakout section about what we can do with these tools in the classroom as tools, right? As things that our students can use really mindfully, really thoughtfully to help them build the confidence, help them connect in really thoughtful ways, right? And I hope that we also keep in mind ways to help them avoid using these tools as masks, avoid using these tools as ways to cover up a thought about, maybe I don't actually belong here, and so I'm going to let ChatGPT speak for me, right? We want to really make sure that we're helping our students understand that their authentic voice is worth preserving, I think, that we don't want to move students towards just a homogenous academic persona, right? We don't want them to feel like they need to be performing, which I think is when I talk to students who have used ChatGPT in a creative way, right? A lot of times it is because they are concerned that they're not going to present themselves the way that they feel they should present themselves. And so I'm really hoping that as we start to have deeper conversations, and I'm so grateful that we're having these conversations and that we're having them across disciplines as well. I'm so excited to hear what conversations are happening in other departments and divisions. But I think it's really important that we keep in mind how can we help our students have that confidence that they need to not feel like they need to rely on a tool in an ineffective way, in a way that holds them back, in a way that makes them skip steps. That we ourselves don't use these tools as a way to justify adding more work to our students, right? Or a way to speed up what we're expecting them to do, because I think when we do that too much, we're really losing something. And maybe we can get to this a little bit. I have my notes, and of course I went off note. That's what I do. But I do want to think just a little bit. I'll throw this out here. I get concerned sometimes when students use these tools as masks, what it does to our mental health when we're feeling already a little bit disconnected, already like we need to perform, and then we find a tool that helps us do that a little bit more. Does that lead to a little bit more disconnection and things like that? But I don't think that it has to, right? I think that as we have conversations and as we imagine together, we can find ways that we can really help them understand how to not mask, but use tools to help them get where they want to be.
Okay, question number 5 for Professor Bowen. How can AI be leveraged in business and entrepreneurship programs within higher education to foster more collaborative, real-world student engagement and innovation?
Excellent. Okay, so this topic is very dear to my heart. And I like the word you used was connectivity, because all too often, just like you guys did this morning, you rushed here, cut people off, maybe gave people the finger so you can get here on time. And at University of Maryland, there was a lot going on outside the classroom and not much going on inside the classroom. So I would rush and dash and get to class on time, and 10 minutes later, I'm asleep. Why is that? Because I didn't feel connected, like you said. How are we connecting with our students? So today, I'm totally off, I'm going to sit here, and no, we're not sitting here. So what we're doing today, go with me. We are okay. So what you're going to hear is an engagement tool. And I want you to also think about how you are going to do this with your own disciplines, whatever you are teaching, because our students are suffering because they sit and they fall asleep in our classes, or they just decide they're not going to come because what difference does it make? I'll just read it at home. They don't care if I'm really engaged in the classroom. So here we go. I recently launched a coffee shop specializing in cold beverages. Unexpectedly, the weather has turned unseasonably cold for an extended period of several months. What strategies can I implement to sustain profitability during this time? And what operational or product pivots should I consider to adapt to the changing market conditions? So it would probably be better if it was like up there so you can understand what I'm saying. But I'll use Vanna Black to come help me. Woo-hoo. Yeah. So basically, I opened a coffee shop. It's about to become cold. And I have cold coffee shop. It's about to become cold as it's getting ready to become in this season right now. And how am I going to sustain myself? So adjust your product mix. So again, I wish I had a table. Oh my gosh. Introduce seasonal hot drinks. So maybe I'll introduce hot coffee, tea, lattes, hot chocolate, offer creative twists, hot versions of my cold drink. And then I will add, adjusting my product mix, comfort food add-ons. And there is something inside. Yep. Oh, how about that? How about that? So now I can partner with local bakeries for pastries, soups, or sandwiches to increase average ticket size. And then I can also have a limited winter menu. So just creating urgency and encouraging repeat visits, okay? Shift my marketing message. Thank you.
I'm going to have some Pop-Tarts holding this because I'm about to eat this one.
Shift, that says shift. Shift my marketing message. Reframe my brand for cold weather. Promote my shop as a cozy, warm escape rather than just a cold drink shop. Okay. So everybody's like, what's she going to pull out next? So now I'm a cozy shop. Cozy, warm escape, again, rather than just a cold drink shop. Use phrases like warm up with or your winter comfort spot. See, already you're like, I'm going to go to her shop. I see it. I see it on your face. Highlight the ambiance. Post photos of customers. Create some, it's in here. Create some. Exactly. Here we go. Create some super cool lighting, so you're coming in and you have your warm coffee during these cold months. But I'm creating the ambiance. You see what I'm going to leave that up there. Yes. Seasonal decor and music. You're feeling it. Okay. Optimize customer experience, and that was probably in addition to the. Optimize customer experience. So again, the cozy seating, maybe I have blankets on every chair, the warm lighting, indoor seating, seasonal decor and music, loyalty rewards, that type of thing. Almost at the end, protect your margins. Smart sourcing. If your cold drink ingredients were high, shift purchases towards ingredients for hot beverages to have higher margins like tea, right? Offer alternative milks, flavor add-ons, or larger sizes for an extra charge. Flavor add-ons. So maybe you like peanut butter, cold coffee, or cold tea. I don't know. Or maybe this is apricot. This is Wegmans apricot juice. So maybe some apricot sprinkled into your tea, into your coffee as well. And then keep cold drinks alive strategically. I don't have a paper for that. So don't drop them completely. Offer winter-friendly versions, such as cold brew with cinnamon cream. Market them as a bold choice for the fearless coffee drinker. It's a bold choice. So maybe I had a Superman cape or something. Bold for the fearless coffee drinker. But you see where I'm going with this. It's more of a and hopefully you're seeing, okay, I could have my students bring in different things from their houses so they can feel engaged as we try to strategize about our business that we've been talking about, or the businesses that I've had these students break into groups and they're forming coffee businesses, or they're forming a new car, dealership or what have you. What can I do? And those of you who are like, I can't use this in math, yes, you can. So if you go to a chat GPT and you type in, how can I create an engaging assignment for students learning how to multiply polynomials or something, then they can help you and give you the visuals that you need so that the students come in excited. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. And then test delivery and remote sales is the last one. Cold weather may reduce foot traffic, so consider partnering with like a DoorDash or an Uber Eats. Sell take-home drink kits or offer gift cards as holiday presents. So the question, I'm way off, but what I tried to create was real-world student engagement for every discipline that we teach here at Prince George's Community College. There should be no reason why our success rates are falling. They should be increasing. So what are you doing to just challenge yourself? What did we say? What is that book that Dr. Shante brought up in our meeting? Yes, business as unusual. Let's make this a semester where we do things unusual so that we create more attention and more foot traffic to our class every time that we meet. That's all.
Thank you. What I want to do before we break out into our groups, so I want to give at least 5 minutes for people to ask questions to our panel as a whole, and then I will tell you who's going to stay here and who's going to be going to the Duke Center. So does anybody have any question for our panelists? If you can just stand up, tell me your name and your division or your department. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So we are learning about our part of providing resources and how to incorporate AI into our everyday lesson and classes. What can we do? How can we help our students to use AI properly, not inappropriately?
Okay, so does one of my panelists want to take it, please?
I'll take a quick stab at that, but I know at least the way we've adapted our training at Microsoft for employees is we've basically brought AI into the lesson plan. So when you say how do you get your students to engage with it, it needs to become just like another teacher's aide or TA that you have in the class, and you incorporate prompts into what you're teaching. If you guys are using a standardized or common platform, whether it's Copilot or Google, but incorporate those like prompt of the day, or let's open class up with a thoughtful prompt and build upon that, and that'll help them with the critical thinking skills. I know some of the trainings that we've been through do just that. We introduce a topic We have guides on sample or suggested prompts, but the goal is just to get the creative juices going so that the participants will iterate on that, and then we have a expected output or outcome that we're driving towards. And a lot of these tools allow you to create projects for prompts, so you can do breakout sessions amongst your students and group them, like the professor just said, into those groups, and they can iterate creatively together in that platform.
And be open about your policies and right away tell them, hey, you can use AI for generating ideas. You can use it to check your work, but make sure you tell them what you expect them to be doing so they know that you allow them to use it, and then also how you want them to use it so they're not just either covering up that you used it, or if they're using it for like a writing lesson, you could have them state, if you've used it for, I have used, ChatGPT assisted me with, spell check, with generating ideas, with, citing citations, whatever it is, be open about it and tell them and have it in your policy or in your expectations right away so they know how they can use it.
Okay, we got time for one more question, and then if you have any questions when you go through your breakout sessions, you can ask the panelists then. So I'm gonna get the gentleman in the back. Yes, sir. If you could stand up. Yes, sir.
Hi, Ben Hurwitz, I teach history and social sciences. I can see a lot of really interesting potential uses, including as a tutor for AI, but I think there's an elephant in the room, at least I know in my discipline, which is that since January 2022 or whenever it was that ChatGPT came out, there's been a really dramatic decline in the quality of the experience for the professor and for a lot of the students. And I think there's been actually a noticeable decline in the performance of a lot of the students. And I know we're at the edge of this, right? We haven't developed effective techniques yet, but we need to address that.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
When I taught, as I said at the beginning, I taught developmental math, and I was the instructor that had my students at the board, proving that they knew how to solve the problems. And so the woman that asked about, I teach math, and they're still just putting it into whatever system and just spewing out the answer, that maybe we need to become more creative, perhaps, in some of our departments, be it math or some other sciences, INT. And there's maybe for every assignment, homework problem, every assignment, the students have to submit a video of them solving the problem. So then they're showing you that they know how to do it, and if they don't know how to do it, then they're going to learn, because this is a grade. So it's kind of like you have to be more creative with how you're going to see that they really are learning what you're teaching. Yes, Professor Schoolios. Sorry.
Okay.
Real quickly
Okay.
on that as well, one thing we've all heard is that ChatGPT is very good at making mistakes. Embrace it. When I taught math and computer science, I would take, let's say I have a class of 30, I would ask ChatGPT to come up with 10 questions or 10 problems that have a mistake in the problem, put the students into small groups and say, find the mistake, explain why there's a mistake, and explain how they should have done it correctly. Same with coding. And I'm thinking with a history lesson, imagine almost one of those alternate history type things. Let ChatGPT hallucinate, and that's the question for the student. What's wrong here? This feels wrong. What do you remember about this? And just let it use that as the prompt. But whenever I think about like ChatGPT, I think about it a lot from me, the educator in the classroom, and using it that way, and using it to help me to quickly make something that I can, like I said before, for computer science, I could make 10 different coding errors, give them to my students, so that way even they're kind of like, Bob, what'd you get? I don't, and they can't help each other because they're very different, but it forces them to, one, connect with each other, and two, use that critical thinking to really find the mistakes. And that would have been done more on a paper pencil or a screen. That would be very clear. I do not want you using ChatGPT to solve this. So another idea for it.
Yeah, well, you can go ahead, and then we go, yes.
So I'll make this quick because in the English department, we've talked a fair amount about burnout because all of a sudden we got just a ton of ChatGPT awful to read essays. And one of the things that we started with thinking about and developed kind of a database of, or a module really, of resources that are thinking about how can we re-engineer our assignments and things. But really, we ended up at the very end of last academic year, kind of our closing conversation as we talked about how can we create policies, how can we create assignments, we really kind of came to the idea here that maybe what we need to do is be a little bit better at communicating to our students why they should invest and value their education so that we're not trying to figure out, did you use ChatGPT on this? One of my students told me about human AI. Brain melt. Anyways, so stop trying to police and things like that, right? And move more towards, wait, there's a disconnect here. If we're supposed to be providing education and they're not buying into that service, right? If we want to talk in those kinds of terms, then what is it about what we're providing that they're not understanding as valuable right now, and re-engineering so that we're not creating more work for students and we're not creating more work for ourselves. We're helping our students reframe the way that they're thinking about how they're engaging with these tools.
Okay, and we're gonna break now, but I just want to leave you with this. Someone said more work. As a teacher, we dedicate ourselves to making sure that our students get the best, because you want to make sure that the students in your classroom would get the same success as if your kids are sitting in that classroom, okay? Because education will open up doors, and I can tell you, because I used to have a comprehensive learning problem when I was young, and education became a passion for me, and education allowed me to go places that I never thought I could do, because one, I was a woman, and two, I was a woman of color. And because education, that's why it's very important. Education can transform your students' lives, and it's up to us to put our ego at the door and bring it 110% when we get in that classroom.